If you followed my work, you know that I consider omega-3 fish oil to be an indispensable part of my daily regimen, and that I've recommended it for my patients and followers for decades. If you're already taking omega-3s, you should know that I've discovered a product so special that it's become my go-to brand. Dr. Jeffrey Bland, one of the luminaries in the world of complementary health, takes omega-3s to a new level. Omega-3 Rejuvenate from Big Bold Health is a premium blend of pure oils from wild-caught Alaskan cod and sockeye salmon, sourced from the pristine waters of Alaska. Unlike most other brands, Omega-3 Rejuvenate does it differently. The product comes straight from the sea into the hands of skilled fishermen, instantly flash frozen, and taken to their specially designed shoreside plant using a low-heat technique to extract the pure amber omega oil that contains all natural and abundant full-spectrum omega-3s, including EPA, DHA, as well as DPA, plus all natural vitamins A and D, and naturally occurring pro-resolving mediators to support cardiovascular, cognitive, and immune health. Their unique process preserves the natural goodness of the fish, so you get maximum benefits in every soft gel. No fillers, no shortcuts, just pure, potent wellness. Visit bigboldhealth.com/Hoffman and experience the difference. That's bigboldhealth.com/Hoffman for Omega-3 Rejuvenate. Use coupon code Hoffman for 20% off site-wide. Welcome to today's Intelligent Medicine Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ronald Hoffman. Today's subject is herbal medicine, and we're talking to the guru of herbal medicine, a guy who has been situated in the natural products industry for many, many decades. He's a personal colleague of mine, dating back many, many years, founder and executive director of the American Botanical Council, which, by the way, is celebrating its 35th anniversary. Congratulations to Mark Blumenthal, the founder and executive director, who has more than 43 years of experience as an herbal advocate, consultant, educator, researcher, writer, and advisor. He is also editor-in-chief and publisher of Herbalgram, which is a peer-reviewed quarterly journal, and founder and director of something called the Botanical Adulterants Program, which is an important safeguard for quality of natural products. And Mark, if I read your entire CV here, we just run out of time for the whole interview. So I'm going to plunge right ahead, despite your many qualifications and accolades. I just want to offer you congratulations on the 35th anniversary of ABC, the American Botanical Council. It's at a 40-year milestone of Herbalgram. It's a great accomplishment.
Thank you, Ron, and thank you. It's so good to hear your voice, and so good. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a long time since we talked. Used to be on your show irregularly. Was it WOAI? Maybe was it
WOR? Yes, WOR in New York. Yeah,
WOR,
as a former.
Sorry,
I guess you're a former New Yorker, so you kind of harken back to those days.
I'm from El Paso, Texas originally, but I lived in Austin on and off.
Okay.
Since 1964, since I started college here. So, yeah.
Well, great. Okay, so talk to us a little bit about the evolution. First of all, the big elephant in the room. Key question: is it herbal medicine or is it herbal medicine? What say you?
We don't aspirate the H, so it's herbal medicine. In England, it's herbal with a, you can hear the H.
Okay. You say tomato and I say tomato, kind of distinction.
Yeah, we talk about plant-based medicine, botanical medicine, but we also include, like in Chinese traditional medicine, they include fungi in herbal medicine, but they are not typically botanicals because, as you know, in the categorization of biology, fungi are a totally different kingdom, or we want to say kingdom, not to use a gender-based term.
Neither plant nor animal, but a separate and distinct kingdom. Yeah.
Yeah, in some ways, fungi DNA is reportedly closer to animal DNA than it is to plant.
Wow. Well, talk to us a little bit about your personal journey and the evolution of herbal medicine, because I know you from the time we can harken back to when teas and tinctures were the things. And, when you wanted to use an herbal thing, you made, you brewed a tea, or perhaps you got a tincture that was an alcohol or glycerin. And now, we've progressed to standardized extracts where we extract the potent constituents of plants. And there's really been an evolution and a revolution in herbal medicine, right?
Yes, and if I may, just to clarify, I appreciate you were reading some information on my bio. This is actually my 50th year
Okay.
in the herbal industry and community. Although when I say industry, I'm not in the commercial side of the industry. I'm in the nonprofit domain. My evolution, people always ask about. In 1968, I was graduating from college, and long story short, I basically became a vegetarian as a protest against the Vietnam War at that time.
As did many of us.
Basically,
Yeah, that was the
yeah,
thing. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, became a vegetarian because he didn't want to be involved with the killing of life forms, animals, and you didn't want to pay somebody else to do the dirty work for you. So we became vegetarians, and at that time we went to the health food stores. 1968, there were no natural food stores like Whole Foods today. There were pill shops with foods for special dietary use, like for people with diabetes and hypertension, with low sodium diets, but they would have these wall of Select and Alvita teas on the wall, which had all these herbs in them, these herbal teas, and with stuff like burdock root, and beside mint and chamomile, they had hibiscus and burdock and all these different things that I'd never seen before. And they would have books for sale and literature that was all based on traditional
Right.
folkloric
Yeah.
uses of botanicals. No science. There was very little science being done back in the 60s on botanicals, and what was being done was the advent that was being done in Western Europe. The first standardized herbal extract that I think you mentioned, I think it came about back in 1968, which was the development of ginsana. I think the ginseng extract was standardized to ginsenosides at 4%, made by a company in the Italian part of Switzerland. So the idea of standardization of extracts, which some people misunderstand, it's not like you're taking stuff out of the extract or the herb. You're basically guaranteeing certain parts of the spectrum of chemicals, the naturally occurring chemicals, either for quality control purposes to help ensure that this is in fact the right herb, or there enough of the right herb from a standardization, so it's chemically defined that a certain natural constituent or group of similar compounds are there
An
in
example of
sufficient
which might be
quantity.
berberine from Oregon grapefruit, right? Because you can get the herb, and that has a spectrum of things, but the
Correct.
key ingredient that we're targeting and standardizing to and assaying is berberine, which has gained a lot of
Right.
popularity and traction.
Right, and that's what often golden seal extracts are standardized to. But there's also canadine and other what they call isoquinoline alkaloids, which are basically these compounds that have similar chemical structures. And so basically, standardization came about through for two reasons. One was for quality control purposes, and one was also for clinically therapeutic purposes, because there was enough there of some of the pharmacologically active compounds to have a pharmacological effect. And when we talk about herbal medicines, we don't talk about active ingredient. That's a very medical, pharmaceutical, reductionist kind of concept. There are multiple active ingredients working and swimming around in herbal teas and herbal extracts and capsules and tablets that have multiple effects. And there's a synergy and additive effects as well. So the herbs get very chemically complex, but I think we're moving into a different direction. But the bottom line for the original question was, I started out as a vegetarian and then started looking at herbal as and wild edible plants as a hobby, and eventually started a business after I moved back from New Mexico. I lived up near Taos, New Mexico in the early 70s on what was a commune at the time. I lived off the grid for several years with no water, no electricity, and basically got to appreciate the natural world at a level that I never had before at the age of 25 or 26 when I moved back to Austin. And I eventually started a wholesale herb company and started wholesaling herbs to health food stores and food co-ops back in 1974. So it was 50 years ago this year when I started an herb business. And after 12 years or so, I moved into more of the education, research, advocacy, quality control, ethics area of the herbal community, which is where we are today with the nonprofit American Botanical Council.
So, in answer to critics of the industry, they say, well, you never know what you're getting because it's not standardized. At least when you get a drug, it's one purified chemical that is assayed, standardized, and approved by the FDA. What say you? I think your organization, the American Botanical Council, and some of the projects that you've undertaken is sort of the best retort to that argument, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, let me just say there's a lot of good companies that are run by ethical people that are responsible, that care about the quality of the ingredients they put in their products. They care about how they process those materials into consumer products. And ultimately, they care about a beneficial effect for the overall benefit for the health of their customer. There's a lot of good people out there, and yet there's also people out there who are more concerned about the business and making money and less concerned about the quality. And this is not new. We started this program, you mentioned it earlier, called the Botanical Adulterants Prevention Program. And now I think we're now in our 14th year. And this is something that the American Botanical Council, with several other nonprofit organizations, including the American Herbal Pharmacopoeia and the National Center for Natural Products Research at the University of Mississippi, which is a U.S. FDA-funded center of excellence dealing with analysis of botanical supplements and ingredients going into botanical supplements, and developing laboratory analytical methods on how to analyze those ingredients. That's FDA-funded at Ole Miss. There are partners in the Botanical Adulterants Prevention Program. We call it BAP with two P's for short. And what we do is we've published now, I think, 84 peer-reviewed documents and made them available free access on our website at herbalgram.org for anybody in the world, in industry, in academia, in government agencies, regulatory agencies, that can access our material, that are heavily peer-reviewed, up to 25, 30 peer reviewers for one of our technical documents, on how to be careful for different medicinal plants, different herbal medicine materials, different herbs that are ingredients that are subject to adulteration and fraud in the marketplace globally, and how legitimate, responsible, ethical manufacturers can be sure to not buy adulterated material. And let me just say, this adulteration and fraud thing that goes on occasionally in the world has been going on for thousands of years. The first article we published, which is again available on our website at herbalgram.org, goes through the history of the adulteration of herbs, spices, and botanical drugs, going back to Greco-Roman times, 2,000 years ago. So people cheat, and it's just part of society and part of our culture, unfortunately. And we provide the tools for responsible members of the industry, of which there are many, so they can make sure that they are accessing and purchasing and utilizing authentic herbal medicine materials.
Yeah, it kind of harkens back to when the spice caravans traversed, from Asia to the classical world, ancient Rome and Greece, where they found all kinds of things that had come, precious things from the Orient. It sounds like,
and by the way, and they would sometimes put sand in the cinnamon to increase its weight or something, right? That's why one of the first tests going back 2,000 years for some of these things was called the ash test. They would burn the herbal material or the spice and see what inorganic material was left over, because the sand wouldn't burn. And it was like one of the macroscopic type of organoleptic type of testing procedures. Burn the stuff and see if there's any rocks or sand in there, because it was commonplace back then for people to cheat by adding to the weight.
Okay, folks, at this point, let's pause and allow one of our sponsors an opportunity to share an important message with you. So here goes. Listen up.
Kyolic aged garlic extract is considered by many to be the GOAT of garlic, the greatest garlic supplement of all time. For over 50 years, Kyolic aged garlic extract has been the trusted choice for millions for safe, effective cardiovascular and immune support. Aged garlic extract's effectiveness is well documented in over 900 published scientific papers and studies. Kyolic aged garlic extract is created by aging organically grown garlic for up to 20 months. This unique aging process makes aged garlic extract gentle on the stomach, eliminates the offensive garlic odor and taste, and results in safe, beneficial compounds found only in Kyolic aged garlic extract products. Whether you're seeking ways to maintain healthy cholesterol or blood pressure levels, or strengthen your immunity, there is a Kyolic formula right for you. Visit Kyolic.com and learn about Kyolic's many health benefits. That's KYOLIC.com. Look for Kyolic at natural health stores nationwide and online.
Thanks for listening, and thanks for supporting our sponsors. They're what make intelligent medicine a continuing free resource to you. And now back to today's guest, Mark Blumenthal. Well, it sounds like, several things can go wrong when it comes to herbal products. One is that the ingredient is inherently harmful, and it hasn't been recognized that there's some potential harm. And another is that inferior ingredient has been substituted or, diluted, so you're really not reaching potency. Another is that the label claim, they say it delivers X amount, but it doesn't really deliver the right amount. So how do you safeguard against that? And, what are some examples?
Okay, so there's a lot of a lot of questions. First of all, there are many, like I said, there's many good companies that really have very robust quality control laboratories in their buildings, in their companies that do exactly the kind of thing that we're talking about, is making the check to make sure, A, it's the right material. It is the herb that is labeled and not something else. To check for contamination and impurities, and to check for the potency. I mean, that's required by federal law. There are GMPs, good manufacturing practices, that are required by federal law of all manufacturers and suppliers of botanicals in interstate commerce. And they have to look for the first question that they have to look at. The first job one is in quality is identity. Is it the right stuff? It's one thing to go to Whole Foods or the grocery store somewhere and know a difference between an apple and an orange. But when you're dealing with powders or with extracts, it's not that easy to tell what's what, and there's a whole series of type tests: the macroscopic test with visual, microscopic test with microscopes, chemical tests with like high performance liquid chromatography machines, and all kinds of others that companies utilize to help ensure that the material that they are buying, if they're buying a couple of barrels of something to put into a capsule or a tablet, that material is what it claims to be, and it's not contaminated, and it will deliver, hopefully, on the promise or the implied or expressed, the claim that the company is making for the product, if they have a structure function claim on their label and in their marketing. It's not facile. There's hundreds of different medicinal herbal medicines and herbal products out there in the marketplace, the ingredients alone, and it's a big job. And that's one of the reasons why we did the Botanical Adulterants Prevention Program, is to help act as like an extension of the quality control programs of these companies, those who choose to look at our stuff. And again, it's available for free. We're funded through that program, through the generous support of the ethical and responsible companies in the industry, not only in the United States, but internationally. It's an international program. It's the largest international program in the world dealing with providing peer-reviewed information to help ensure that companies know what to look for and what to be careful of, and how to properly evaluate in the laboratory botanical materials, because some of the adulterators, the fraudsters, let's call them what they are, the criminals, in wherever they are, they could be in China or whatever, if they're making extracts that sometimes are adulterated and standardized in such a way that is intended to fool or to trick the prevalent analytical methods that are being employed in industry and government quality control laboratories.
It's a little bit like
game the system.
It's a little bit like drug testing for athletes. There's sort of a technological race to stay ahead of the detection methods, and some of these companies are pretty crafty. I think that it's possible that the last
They
time,
can be very graphic.
I think that this was actually the subject of our interview the last time I talked to you several years ago, when your namesake, Attorney General Richard Blumenthal, who now I guess is a senator,
Yes.
announced kind of a bust where they used, I think, a kind of a suspicious modality to check for the potency, and that you really weren't using comprehensive testing when they came up with the conclusion that the material was adulterated or basically a bunch of rice bran.
If I may, I think that you may, and I don't know Richard Blumenthal, my namesake. We may or may not be related. I don't know.
Common name.
I would love to meet him someday. Senator Blumenthal, give me a call. Or I'm happy to talk to you. However, or I should say, cousin Senator Blumenthal. Who knows? I think what you may be referring to, Ron, is the actual Eric Schneiderman's
Yes, right.
former.
That was New York. That was New York, right. Mm-hmm.
Yes, the former Attorney General of New York. Under his watch, they basically came out with a report that was uncritically reported in the New York Times, the paper of record, which I read every day and have for years. But unfortunately, the New York Times got it wrong, and so did Attorney General Schneiderman. What they did is they did DNA testing on a number of herbal material products off the shelf from various retail outlets, and they found that according to the testing that they did, that the results did not meet what the label claim of for the identity of the material, and they went without retesting, without doing any kind of controls, without really doing this scientifically. They went and actually published this through the New York Times, their results, and it was all over NPR and
It's like
Associated
science by
Press.
press release, kind of, right? Yeah.
You got it. And here's what happened. They went to a fellow, and I forgot which university it was, who was a paleontologist or an ornithologist,
Right.
who was not even a medicinal plant expert, and they used DNA testing. And by the way, plants have more sophisticated DNA than animal DNA, according to my genetic expert friends. So they took somebody who did not have experience with testing plant material and or processed plant material, because when you do extracts, sometimes you kill the DNA through heating and
Yep.
other things, and the
Sure.
DNA is
It's
unstable.
fragile.
When you get fragments of DNA.
Mm-hmm.
So DNA testing has its limitations. And also DNA testing can't tell you which part of the plant you're testing. It can only give you the identity of the DNA for that plant. But if somebody's got leaf material or leaf extract for their ashwagandha or ginseng added to the root extract, when people think they're buying the root, DNA testing can't tell you that. Chemical testing will, and or if it's a powder, microscopic analysis can tell. So it depends on how you analyze it. But what happened is, bottom line, Eric Schneiderman, the now I think retired and maybe even disgraced former Attorney General of New York,
Yes.
no disrespect, basically got it wrong, but it cost a huge public furor, millions of dollars of testing and products being pulled from shelves. And even though they could have gotten it right if they'd come to talk to us first, and we could show them what we know is being adulterated, because we compile and collect all these papers that are published in the scientific literature from around the world in all these scientific journals. We know what's being tested. We know what's coming out. What herbs are subject to adulteration. We don't know the extent of the adulteration. That's another issue. We're working on a paper on that, but we know what's being adulterated. They didn't do that. And here's one other thing that
And by the way, the Times reporter could have picked up the phone and talked to you as kind of an authoritative person in this field.
He did.
Okay.
Anahad O'Connor.
Yeah.
Anahad O'Connor did call me, and we did get mentioned in the article, I believe, one of the articles. And I've met with him, and we've talked about this. However, it turned out that they basically had to the New York Attorney General had to basically eat crow and basically admit eventually after several years that they got it wrong.
Uh-huh.
However, the New York Times has never published a retraction. And it
Hmm.
was a front page story. I think it may have been above the fold, as they say. So this was
Yeah.
big news, and they pushed it as big news. And Schneiderman did it for whatever reasons, or political or otherwise. And maybe he thought it was legitimate. I don't know what his thinking was, and it doesn't matter at this point. But the fact is, they got it wrong. They tested it wrong. They didn't use a reliable, and they didn't do what is one of the basic tenets of science: controlled experimentation. Where is your control to confirm the results that you've initially come out with? Can you confirm that with another test and that's necessary in science, and science is about that, and peer review, and it was not peer reviewed properly. And this, again, so you call it science by press release, it's virtually that problem. But it caused a lot of problem. However, there was one benefit out of that, in all fairness, and what that is, that took quality control issues to the executive suite.
Hmm.
Whereas in some companies that where the executives do care about quality control, and some other companies they maybe did not until things started hitting the fan based on that New York Times expose. That
They
was
might have cut corners without the high profile case
yeah.
that
Well,
publicized this. Yeah. Hmm. All right.
right.
Good.
Well, weren't paying attention enough to actually maybe resource their quality control regimen to the level that it should be.
Okay. Good point at which to
In some
pause
cases.
because we laid down the groundwork for our discussion in part two. In part two, I want to actually focus on some of your work looking at specific herbs. We'll mention the website. The First of all, a great resource is the Herbalgram. It's a quarterly journal, which is really great science about natural products. And also the American Botanical Council. What's the website there so that people can learn about it?
Herbalgram.org, Herbalgram, herbalgram, like telegram.org.
Okay, good stuff. And when we return, more on the subject of natural herbal products with today's guest, Mark Blumenthal, founder and executive director of the ABC, the American Botanical Council. I'm Dr. Ronald Hoffman, and this is the Intelligent Medicine Podcast.